Hey guys, what's going on here? Counterspell Hater back with another EDH guide. This time we're kind of taking a break from uh Innistrad Crimson Vow, and we're gonna go on to like probably one of the most powerful ones, Ramos Dragon Engine, a very iconic commander card. First showing up in I think it was Commander 2018. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. So what is Ramos Dragon Engine? Well, for 6 generic is a legendary artifact creature dragon with flying. It's a 4/4. And it says whenever you cast a spell, put a plus counter on Ramos Dragon Engine for each of that spell's colors. And then you can remove 5 +1/+1 counters from Ramos and add double white, double black, double blue, double red, and double green. I meant to say kind of in a different order, but that's fine. However, you can only activate this ability once each turn, so kind of balanced, kind of not in a sense, because you trade in like what, like you could cast like something with Woober and it's like red, white, black, green, and blue. And then that's an easy 10 mana in exchange. So there are many ways you can go with Ramos. And I'll tell you, this was a pain putting together. I once had like a pretty good Ramos deck, but then I like deconstructed it and I wanted to start anew. But then I found out there are too many ways you can actually go with Ramos because of how he plays. And it's just like it was a headache. So I decided for this episode, we do Ramos Enchantments. So this is an Enchantress style deck. Just play a bunch of enchantments. So we have a lot of enchantments in that, like the very end, like the very bottom, like last 50 cards. We have like some like non-enchantments, but still very powerful cards that like can help us cast enchantments or give us value for playing our commander the way we do. So let's get started with the shrines. Starting off with Honden of Life's Web. For 4 generic and a green is a legendary enchantment shrine, and it says at the beginning of your upkeep, put a 1/1 colors spirit creature token onto the battlefield for each shrine you control. Sanctum of Fruitful Harvest, 2 generic and a green for once again a legendary enchantment shrine that adds mana at X mana at the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, so before combat, obviously, where X is the number of shrines you control. Honden of Seeing Winds, for 4 generic and a blue, it is a legendary enchantment shrine that has you draw a card for each shrine you control at the beginning of your upkeep. Sanctum of Calm Waters, for 3 generic and a blue, same thing, legendary enchantment shrine. But at the beginning of your post-combat main phase, you may draw X cards, where X is the number of shrines you control. If you do, discard a card. Sanctum of Shattered Heights for 2 generic and a red is once again another legendary shrine that for 1 generic you can discard a land or a shrine card, a land card or a shrine card to it, and it deals X damage to target creature or planeswalker, where X is the number of shrines you control. Honden of the Infinite Rage, excuse me. For 2 generic and red, it is a legendary shrine that deals damage to target creature or player equal to the number of shrines you control at the beginning of your upkeep. Sanctum of Stonefangs, for 1 generic and a black, is a legendary shrine that causes each opponent to lose X life and you to gain X life, where X is the number of shrines you control, once again at the beginning of your pre-combat main phase. Honden of Night's Reach, for 3 generic and a black, is a legendary shrine that has target opponent discard a card for each shrine you control at the beginning of your upkeep. Honden of Cleansing Fire is a legendary shrine for 3 generic and a white that has you gain 2 life for each shrine you control at the beginning of your upkeep. Sanctum of Tranquil Light for 1 white. It is a legendary shrine that can tap target creature for 5 generic and a white. However, that ability costs 1 generic less to activate for each shrine you control. And then Sanctum of All, I believe, to finish it off, is Weaver. So white, blue, black, red, green. I don't know how the acronym goes, but I know it's all 5 colors. Is a legendary shrine that says at the beginning of your upkeep, you may search your library and or graveyard for a shrine card and put it onto the battlefield. If you search your library this way, shuffle it. If an ability of another shrine you control triggers while you control 6 or more shrines, that ability triggers an additional time, so double up shrine triggers. And then, since we're casting like a bunch of enchantments in this deck, we have Hallowed Haunting. For a 2 generic and double white is once again an enchantment. As long as you control 7 or more enchantments, creatures you control have flying and vigilance. And whenever you cast an enchantment spell, create a white spirit cleric creature token with this creature's power and intelligence are each equal to the number of spirits you control. So pretty nice. Shark Typhoon for 5 generic and a blue is once again an enchantment that says whenever you cast a non-creature spell, create an XX blue shark creature token with flying. Rexes that spell's converted mana cost. So since we're casting mostly enchantments and not creatures, this will be triggering off a bunch. Cycling X, 1 generic and blue. So for that cost, you can discard this card and draw a card. Then when you cycle Shark Typhoon, create an XX blue shark creature token with flying. Next, we have Mind's Dilation. For 5 generic and double blue, it is an enchantment that says whenever an opponent casts his or her first spell each turn, that player exiles the top card of his or her library. If it's a land, if it's a non-land card, you may cast it without paying its mana cost. So that's additional cast triggers for Ramos, Dragon Engine, along with other enchantments we control. Future Sight. For 2 generic and triple blue, it is an enchantment once again that has us play with the top card of our library revealed. However, we may play the top card of our library at not at any time, just on our turn at least. If it has flash, then it can be played. But this is great because if we run out of cards in the hand, we can rely on Future Sight to allow us to cast more enchantments instead of rather just having to draw cards. As foretold, for 2 generic and a blue is an enchantment that puts a time counter, has us put a time counter on it at the beginning of our upkeep. And once each turn, you may pay 0 rather than pay the mana cost for a spell you cast with converted mana cost X or less, writes the number of time counters on as foretold. So let's just cast something free. For once each turn, each time the card we are able to cast for free getting more and more expensive in mana. Next we have Simic Ascendancy for green and a blue. It is an enchantment that for 1 generic, a green and a blue can put a +++ counter on target creature we control. And whenever 1 or more +++ counters are put on a creature you control, put that many growth counters on Simic Ascendancy. And at the beginning of your upkeep, if Simic Ascendancy has 20 more growth counters on it, you win the game. Due to us having a bunch of ++ counters being put on Ramos, this will be a pretty easy win. I definitely recommend Simic Ascendancy in decks like these and in any deck that runs green-blue. Because most likely that deck is going to be putting ++ counters on your creatures, just like this one will be. So definitely recommend this. This is an easy win in most Ramos decks. Just like Hydra's Growth can be, because for 2 generic and a green, it is an enchantment aura that enchant creature. And when it enters the battlefield, put a ++ counter on enchanted creature. And at the beginning of your upkeep, double the number of ++ counters on enchanted creature. So suddenly Ramos can become very big and replace a lot of the counters he's lost in giving us mana. So all in all, pretty nice. Allows us to swing in. Sigil of the Empty Throne for 3 generic and double white is an enchantment that says whenever you cast an enchantment spell, put a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying onto the battlefield. Doubling season to go along with it, and this deck in total for 4 generic and green is an enchantment that says if an effect would create 1 or more tokens under your control, it creates twice as many of those tokens instead. If an effect would also put 1 or more counters on a permanent you control, it puts twice that many of those counters on that permanent instead. So that includes Ramos putting counters on himself via cast triggers. Confounding Conundrum, 1 generic and a blue. It is an enchantment that when it enters the battlefield, it draws us a card. And whenever a land enters the battlefield under an opponent's control, if that player had a land enter the battlefield under their control this turn, they return a land they control to its owner's hand, meaning our opponents cannot ramp in the sense of lands. Sunburns Invocation for 5 generic and a red is an enchantment that says whenever you cast a spell from your hand, reveal the top X cards of your library, where X is that spell's mana value. You may cast a spell with mana value X or less from among cards revealed this way without paying its mana cost, with the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Kalfi, Beloved of the Sea, for 1 generic and double blue. She is a legendary enchantment creature, demigod, and her power is equal to our devotion blue. So that means each blue mana symbol in the mana cost of permanents we control. So, like for example, Kelsey having 2, if she was the only blue permanent we had, then she would have 2. There would be 2 devotion to blue. So that'd be 2 power. If we had something like Confounding Conundrum, Kelsey, and as we're told, that would be 4 devotion to blue. Anyways, she also has 3 toughness. Creatures and enchantments you control have spells your opponents cast that target this permanent cost 1 generic more to cast. So protection. Starfield of Nyx for 4 generic and a white. It's an enchantment that returns, has us return a target enchantment card from our graveyard to the battlefield at the beginning of our upkeep. And as long as you control 5 or more enchantments, each other non-or enchantment you control is a creature in addition to its other types, and its base power and base toughness each equal to its converted mana cost. So suddenly our enchantments are going to become creatures, very deadly creatures at that, maybe. All that glitters, however, will not work, for example, because it's an aura for 1 generic and a white. Enchanted creature, and enchanted creature gets +1/+1 for each artifact and or enchantment you control. So it'd be nice. Probably putting that on Ramos. Exploration for a singular green. It's an enchantment that says you may play an additional land on each of your turns. Primeval Bounty for 5 generic and a green. It's an enchantment that says whenever you cast a creature spell, put a 3/3 green beast creature token onto the battlefield. For more importantly, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, put 3 ++ counters on the target creature you control. So along with the counters that Ramos is giving to himself, Primeval Bounty can now give him even more. And whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 3 life. So help us ramp even faster and grow Ramos even more. In Search of Greatness, double green, it's an enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may cast a permanent spell from your hand with converted mana cost equal to 1 plus the highest converted mana cost among other permanents you control without paying its mana cost. If you don't, discard 1. Nylea's Colossus for 6 generic and a green. It is a 6/6 enchantment creature giant. with Constellation, meaning whenever it or another enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, double target creature's power and toughness until its turn. So since we're playing a lot of enchantments, this means Ramos can grow very big, very fast, and possibly kill our opponent in one turn. Cyphus Harvest's Hand for a green and a white. She is a legendary enchantment creature nymph and she is a 1/2. And whenever you cast an enchantment spell, you gain 1 life and draw a card, meaning that you can keep going. I kind of lost myself there for a second, and keep yourself in the game by gaining life. Enchantress's Presence for 2 generic and a green. It's an enchantment that does the same thing, except you don't gain life, you just draw the card by casting an enchantment spell. Skeletal Swarming for 3 generic and a black and a green. It's an enchantment that each skeleton you control has trample, attacks each combat if able, and gets +X/+0, where X is the number of skeletons you control. And at the beginning of your end step, create a tapped 1/1 black skeleton creature token. If a creature died this turn, create 2 of those tokens instead. We have focused on the dying part, just more so this is kind of an anthem effect enchantment. Nice way to give us a board state, since we're not really running many creatures. However, Next Blue Mention is probably even better, because for 4 generic and triple green, it is a broken enchantment creature. It should say that in there, but it doesn't. Elemental, 5/5 trample. If you tap a permanent for mana, it produces 3 times as much of that mana instead. If you haven't seen this thing on my channel, take a minute, pause the video, go watch some of my other MTG Arena videos, and you'll see how insane this thing can be. It is ridiculous. Sanctum Weaver, however, in combination with this, is just absolutely ludicrous, because for 1 generic and a green, it is an enchantment creature Dryad that taps to add X mana of any one color, where X the number of enchantments you control. It's an 0/2, meaning that this combined with Next Blue Mention will go absolutely ham and just give you a bunch of mana. Branching Evolution for 2 generic and a green is an enchantment that doubles the number of plus counters put onto Ramos, or just any creature you control in general. Veladar Retreat for 3 generic and a white is an enchantment with landfall, meaning whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, choose 1, create a 2/2 white cat beast creature token, or you put a plus counter on each creature you control. Those creatures gain vigilance until end of turn. So pretty nice. Helix Pinnacle for a green is enchantment with Shroud, meaning we cannot target them with abilities, but neither can our opponents, and also spells. And for X, put X tower counters on Helix Pinnacle at the beginning of your upkeep. If there are 100 or more tower counters on Helix Pinnacle, you win the game. So the reason I have this in here is because since we're creating so much mana with Ramos, we may have like lands left over, or if we have like a bunch of plus counters on Ramos and we kind of want to use them, we can, because they don't have to be used to like cast on just like creature spells or anything like that. It's just free mana that can be used on anything, including Helix Pinnacle here. So that means like we could possibly win the game within 10 turns or less via Helix Pinnacle. So pretty nice. Mael's area. Red, green, and white for enchantment that says beginning of your upkeep, put a plus counter on each creature you control. If you control a creature with power 5 or greater, then you gain 10 life. If you control a creature with power 10 or greater, then you win the game. If you control a creature with power 20 or greater. Going on pretty good. Elemental Mastery for 3 generic and red is an enchantment aura that enchants creature, and enchanted creature has tap, put X 1/1 red elemental creature tokens with haste into play, where X is this creature's power. Remove them from the game at the end of turn. So if your opponent has a lot of blockers or like a chump blocker in the air, then you can suddenly like, I guess, spread Ramos out and swarm your opponents, killing them. So pretty nice. As an alternative, archetype of aggression for 1 generic and double red is an enchantment creature, human warrior for 3. It's a 3/2. And creatures you control have trample, meaning Ramos can probably get in for big damage now without being jump blocked and it being worth something. And creatures you won't control lose trample and don't have and can't have or gain trample for as long as this is around, which is very nice because we can be safe from trample, we can jump block, and then we can give Ramos and other creatures we control trample and just outright swarm our opponent with like a bunch of damage. Maelstrom Nexus is an enchantment for white, blue, black, red, green, so Weaver. The first spell you cast each turn has Cascade, meaning when you cast your first spell, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a non-land card that costs less. You may pay it. You may cast it without paying its mana cost. Put the exile cards on the bottom of your library in a random order. So this helps us cast like an additional spell off our first spell, meaning that we get another Ramos trigger off our first spell. So that could possibly put like more +1/+1 counters onto Ramos. Dryad of the Elysian Grove. For 2 generic and a green is an enchantment creature nymph 2/4, and it can allow us to play lands, an additional land on each of our turns. And lands we control are every basic land type in addition to their other types. So all pretty nice. Destiny Spinner for 1 generic and a green is an enchantment creature human 2/3 that makes creature enchantment spells we control uncounterable. So blue can't do anything about us. So anyways, for 3 generic and a green though, target land you control becomes an XX elemental creature with trample and haste until end of turn. X is number of enchantments you control, it's still land. So could probably just end the game outright right there. Grufix, God of Horizons, for 3 generic, a green and a blue. It is a legendary enchantment creature god. 4/7 indestructible. As long as your devotion to green and blue is less than 7, Grufix is a creature. You have no maximum hand size. So if you're drawing a bunch of cards, you don't have to worry about hand size. And if unused mana would empty from your mana pool, that mana becomes colorless instead. So we can start storing mana that we haven't used yet for later turns. So then when it comes back around, we can use that mana to cast even more spells. Xenagos, God of Revels, for 3 generic, a red and a green is a legendary enchantment creature god, 6/5 indestructible, and it says as long as your devotion to red and green is less than 7, he is in the creature. And at the beginning of combat on your turn, another target creature you control gains haste and gets +X/+X until in turn, where X is that creature's power. So Ramos can get that quick. Now we have like the non-enchantment. Well, actually, we haven't gotten to the non-enchantment stuff yet. Excuse me. We have Dreadbrigger Lampheads. Excuse me. For 4 generic and a black, it's an enchantment creature nymph. 4/2 constellation, meaning when it or another enchantment enters the battlefield under our control, target creature gains intimidate until end of turn. This can be a game ender because that means intimidate creatures, or creatures with intimidation, I should say, can be blocked except by artifact creatures and or creatures that share a color type with any color. So the problem for our opponents with that is that essentially they have to have an artifact creature with reach or flying or some way to deal with Ramos, because even though his color identity in the commander is all 5, he is a colorless creature because he is an artifact creature. His ability is just colored, which gives him his color identity. So due to that, the only thing that'd be able to block Ramos would be Eldrazi, something with color that is colorless with reach, and something that is colorless with flying. So like doctors and stuff. Now we get into the non-enchantment stuff. So Ether Flux Reservoir, 4 generic and nothing else. I was about to say green. For 4 generic, just 4 generic. It's an artifact. Whenever you cast a spell, you gain 1 life for each spell you've cast this turn. And then you can pay 50 life, and it deals 50 damage to target creature or player. So due to us casting a lot of spells, probably thanks to Ramos and all the mana he gives us, Ether Flux Reservoir will be able to probably just wipe someone out. Yidris, Maelstrom Wielder. He, for a blue, a black, a red, and a green, he is a legendary ogre wizard, 5/4 with trample, and he says whenever Yidris, Maelstrom Wielder deals combat damage to a player, as you cast spells from your hand this turn, they gain Cascade. So we already know what that does. And then our 50th and final non-land card is Daxus the Return. 1 generic, a white and a black. He is a legendary zombie soldier, 2/2. And he says whenever you cast an enchantment spell, you gain an experience counter. You get an experience counter, excuse me. And for 1 generic, a white and a black, put a white and black spirit enchantment creature token onto the battlefield. It has this creature's power toughness are each equal to the number of the experience counters you have. So that's the end of that. Then we have Sarah Sanctum to be in our non-basic lands. Legendary land. You can tap to add a white 2-hour mana pool for enchantment we control. So we're gonna have a lot. So that's gonna be great.
Alexa,
I'm gonna
30-minute timer.
Resuming Amazon Music.
Alexa, stop. Alexa, start a 30-minute timer.
30 minutes, starting now.
Please excuse my redhead. Anyways, Mosswort Bridge, Hideaway. This land comes into play tapped. When it does, look at the top 4 cards of your library. Remove 1 from the game face down. Then put the rest on the bottom of your library. This is Lorwyn we were talking about. So exile was interpreted as removed from the game. Then it can tap to add a green, or for green you can tap it, and you may play the remove card without paying its mana cost if creatures you control have total power 10 or greater. And then Windbrisk Kites is a land with Hideaway, so same thing except it can tap to add a white, or for white it can tap, and you may play the exiled card without paying its mana cost if you attack with 3 or more creatures this turn. Spinerock Knoll, same thing, except it can tap for a red, or for red it can tap and may play the exile card without paying its mana cost if an opponent was dealt 7 or more damage this turn, and due to Ramos's sheer size, that'll probably be possible. Sheldok Isle is a land with Hideaway as well, and it can tap to add a blue, or for blue it can tap and you may play the remove card without paying its mana cost if your library has 20 or fewer cards in it. Due to us casting so many spells off the top, maybe with like Future Sight or like drawing a bunch of cards, Sheldok Isle may be able to trigger. And then we have 9 mountains, 9 basic plains, by the way, basics all the way, 9 basic swamps, 9 basic islands, 9 basic forests, and the end of this EDH guide. I think I will be doing more of Ramos due to like the sheer amount of possibilities. Like you could go so many ways with this commander. You could go not just enchantments, creatures, instants, sorceries, tribal, cascade. The possibilities are endless for this commander. let me know in the comment section down below what you would want to see next, maybe. And in the meantime, like and subscribe. I'm so glad that you guys got that Chatterfang EDH guide up to 30 views. Keep it going, guys. And that all my other videos are getting a lot of views. So please do that. Anyways, love you all who are watching right now. We're at 8 subscribers, guys. There's 2 more, then we can do a 10 sub special. Don't forget to hit the notification bell, so that way you don't miss more of this content. Go watch some of my MTG Arena videos. Share all these videos that you have watched as far with others, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.